So today we are going to finish up our consultation question with the last the subtopic being the consultation of a subsidiary and a sub-subsidiary. So this is another topic which is also known as a D-shaped group of consolidation. So the D-shaped group of consolidation, it's a consolidation that involves three companies. This is a parent company, number one, a subsidiary, number two, and a sub-subsidiary, number three. So when you talk about these three companies, as we all know, a parent company is the main company of which, when you're preparing the consolidated statement of financial position or a consolidated statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, it's the main one holding these other two companies. So what is this D-shape type of consolidation? Let's try to move on and see. So the example given here is where this Hook company acquired shares in Mohill company. Later on, Mohill company acquired some shares in Pimpo company. So here, as you can see, the Hook also went on and acquired some shares direct into Pimpo company. So let's try to look at this example. I think you're going to use this example and it will help us to understand the whole concept, like the whole thing about the D shape group structure of consolidation. So we have this example with us here, and it reads: the draft statements of financial position of Hook company, Mohill company, and Pimpo company as at the 1st May 2015 are as follows. We are given that data there, as you can see, assets, non-current assets, so there, current assets, equity and liabilities there, non-current liabilities, current liabilities, blah blah. We all read there. So we've also been given these notes here to help us work out with this question here. So, and part A of this note says, Hook company acquired 60% of the shares in Mohill on 1st January 2013 when the balance on that company's retained earnings was 8 million credit, and there was no revaluation surplus. That's number one. Number two, Hook company acquired 20% of the shares of Pimpo company, and Mohill acquired 60% of the shares of Pimpo company on 1st January 2014 when that company's retained earnings stood at 15 million. Okay. Part 3 says, there has been no payment of dividends by either Mohill or Pimpo company since they became subsidiaries. Okay. Part 4, there was no impairment of goodwill. Okay. Part 5 and the last part, it is the group's policy to measure the non-controlling interest at acquisition at its proportionate share of the fair value of the subsidiaries' net assets. Okay. Then the question reads: prepare the consolidated statement of financial position of Hook company as at the 1st May 2015. Okay, so from this question here, we are able now to come up with something like this on this other side now here. This is why it is called the D group shaped group structure of consolidation, because it forms something like a D letter. The way D letter is written, a capital D letter, the way it's written, it forms something similar to that. That's why it is even given the name D-shaped group of companies. Okay, so you can see that Hook company acquired 60% shares in more company here. Okay, and this was, if you read this part here, you find that Hope Company acquired 60% shares in More Company on 1st January 2023 here. Okay, More also acquired 60% shares in Pimple Company here. Then, so here, when you look at this here, there's an indirect control here, because when Hook acquired shares in More Company here, More Company also acquired some shares in Pimple Company. That means these 60% shares acquired in Pimple Company by More Company here, also the Hook Company has 60% part of this 60% here. The whole company here, it has 60% of this 60%. The other percentage, which is 40%, it's for non-controlling interest, which is in More Company here. Okay, so when now we try to look at the other part, this other part which is here, this other part here, you'll be able to see that it is forming this shape as a result of this 20%, which was acquired direct in Pimple Company by Whole Company. So from this now, it's very important to say each and everything you're doing when it comes to consolidation, you establish first the group structure. The group structure will guide you how much percentage is for non-controlling interest, how much percentage is the non-controlling interest having as its share out of the total assets you acquire. Okay, so let's move on and see. So we move on now to check out how much the net assets acquired. So when Whole Company acquired these shares in More Company and Pimple Company, you see that the retained earnings in More Company, they were standing at 80,000, and the equity shares, they were standing at 50,000 kwacha. So the total assets acquired here, it was 58,000, which is this. Then in Pimple Company here, you come to notice that when Whole Company acquired shares in Pimple Company, the retained earnings, they were standing at 15,000 kwacha, and the equity shares also were standing at 50,000 kwacha, hence having this total 65,000 kwacha. These were the net assets acquired. I know some might say, no, when you're calculating the consolidation type of question, you start with the group structure, then you calculate the goodwill. But for me, I'll tell you to say, you start with the net assets acquired. This is because when you're doing the goodwill, the net assets acquired will be needed. The figure will be used to find the total goodwill on acquisition. So this is why I always emphasize to say, when you're doing with any consolidation question type, you start with the group structure followed by the net assets acquired. After you calculate the net assets acquired, that's when you can move on now to calculate the goodwill, because these figures will be used when calculating the goodwill. Okay, so let's try to move on and see how are we going to calculate our goodwill. Okay, so the goodwill here, you can see from the notes we are given on that question page, we are told to say the consolidations were as follows. The total consideration paid by Hope Company to acquire shares in More Company, it was 90,000 kwacha. This was the direct consideration, and the direct consideration paid to Pimple Company by Hope Company to acquire shares, it was 25,000 kwacha. There is also this indirect consideration, which is 25,200 kwacha. So this 25,200 kwacha, it is coming up as a result of the 42,000 kwacha that was paid by Mo company to acquire shares in Pimpo company. Let's try to calculate why. So this 42,000 kwacha paid by Mo company to acquire shares in Pimpo company. Mind you, in Mo company now there is parent company and the NCI. So when paying this consideration 42,000 kwacha, the two companies, the parent company and the NCI, the minority shareholders, they'll contribute in line with how much percentage each own in this more company. So the parent company here, which is the Hook company in this case, it owns 60% because it acquired 60% of shares in more company, and therefore when buying shares in another company, which is Pimpo company here, you as a parent, you are going to pay 60% of this 42,000 kwacha, which is 25,200 kwacha. So you don't have to leave this one out because you also contributed when acquiring shares in this other company here. So you have to bring it down here as the consideration you paid. So you notice that the total consideration paid here, instead of just putting 25,000 kwacha, you put 25,000 kwacha, the direct and the indirect, which is the 25,000 kwacha 200. So the total consideration here, it is 50,200 kwacha. The total consideration. This total here it's a bit tricky because if you try to leave out this other component of consideration, the figures, the balance sheet will not balance, and you end up getting things wrong here. So you have to make sure that when you're doing the consideration, you put both the direct consideration and the indirect consideration. So the direct consideration 25,000 kwacha, the indirect consideration 25,200 kwacha. Okay, the NCI at acquisition. Take note, the NCI here, we are talking about the NCI at acquisition, not the total NCI. So you can see that the NCI in more company there, it's 23,000 kwacha 200. The NCI in this company, Pimpo company, it is 28,600 kwacha. So from the notes there where the question is said, we are told to say the NCI, it is valued at proportionate share of the total assets at acquisition. And so if you try to calculate the 40% of the 58,000 total assets acquired, you get only 40% of that 58,000 kwacha, which is 23,200 kwacha. So you now see that the total assets, it's very important to calculate the total assets acquired before you calculate the goodwill, because now here the NCI at acquisition, you are just getting the proportionate share of the total assets acquired. So the NCI here in more company at acquisition, it was 23,200 kwacha. Then in this other company, the Pimpo company, it was standing at 28,600 kwacha. This, we arrived at this figure after calculating the 44% of 65,000 kwacha, the total assets acquired. And this 44% here, it is coming up as a result of the other, when Hook company acquired shares in more Hill company here, it acquired 60%. So there's 40% NCI there. Okay. Then the more company acquired acquired shares in Pimp Company, which is 60%. So if you try to calculate the 40%, the 40% then 0.6 that was bought in there, it was 24%. So that means the NCI in this 60% here, it has 24%. So 24% plus the other 20%, which is now remaining, is the one giving us 44%. So the total NCI in Pip Company, it is 44% times 65,000 kwacha, which is giving us this 28,600 kwacha. Okay. So after computing that, you are having, for more, you are getting 113,200 kwacha. Then for Pimp Company, you are having 78,800 kwacha. Then you less the assets acquired. So the assets acquired, we've already calculated that it is, for more company it is 58,000 kwacha. For Pimp Company it is 65,000 kwacha. So after computing these two, you are having these figures, which is 55,000 kwacha 200 and 38,000 kwacha. Sorry, not 38, but 13,800 kwacha. Remember, the goodwill figure and the NCI figure in the consolidated statement of financial position should only appear as individual figures, not two figures, but individual figures. This means you're going to have one figure for NCI for both companies and the goodwill, one figure for both companies. So these two figures, you have to add them up, and when you add these two, you are getting 69,000 kwacha. You are getting 69,000 kwacha. Okay. Let's move on and try to calculate the group retained earnings. So the group retained earnings here, this one is not trick because there was no PUP, which is the provision for unrealized profit. Yeah, something like that. That's the only part. That's the only time when the group retained earnings becomes a bit trickier, when you are given the PUP. When the question it's having another part, which is the PUP, provision for unrealized profits. But for this one, it's just quite straightforward because there's no that other part in it. So if you check here, for whole company, it is given the group retained in the retained earnings are given, the figure is provided, which is 45,000 kwacha. Then for more company, so this is how you set out your calculation when you're trying to calculate the retained earnings. It's at acquisition, the group retained earnings at acquisition, group retained earnings at reporting date, the post, and now the share you as a parent you are getting out of these post acquisitions figures. So the group retained earnings for more company at acquisition, they were standing at 80,000 kwacha. Then at reporting, you're given to say it is 32,000 kwacha. So the post here, you calculate from beginning to the end, you calculate the difference between the two. At start, it was standing at 80,000 kwacha. At reporting, it is at 32,000 kwacha. So the difference here, it is 24,000 kwacha. So you as a parent, since you're having 60% of these shares, this figure, which is 24,000 kwacha, you are getting 60% of it. That means you are getting 14,000 kwacha 400. Okay, you are getting 14,000 kwacha 400. Okay. Then for Pimp Company here, it is at acquisition, it was standing at 15,000 kwacha. Then at reporting, it is standing at 25,000 kwacha. That means the difference here, the post acquisition figure, it is 10,000 kwacha. So you as a company, you are getting 56% of this, which is 5,600 kwacha. When you add all these three, remember this figure should only appear once the group retained earnings. It is supposed to appear only as a block figure, not separately, but as a block figure. You can show this in calculations, in workings, but when you're preparing the consolidated statement of financial position, this figure only appears as a block figure. That's all. Okay, so that's the 65,000 we are getting there. Okay, so from here, you'll be able now to calculate the NCI, because